All right. Hello, welcome to Golden Hawk Speaker Series. My name is Lucas Pedrianes, and we're joined here with Roberto Muñoz. Graduated from here in 1975, and we're excited to have him here.
My name is Jose Mendoza.
My name is Stephanie Lois.
I'm Jose Zuniga.
My name is Fiona Rodriguez.
All right.
And I'm Roberto Muñoz. I'm very, very happy to be here. Today's a very special day for me at Miami Springs Senior High for various reasons. Number one, I did graduate from here in 1975, as was stated. By the way, for those that don't know, as a little bit away, a little bit ago, nearly 50 years ago. But today I'm celebrating my being elected into the Miami-Dade Public School 2023 Alumni Hall of Fame. And I'm the first student from the school to be designated with this Hall of Fame designation, and I'm very happy about that. And very proud of the Miami-Dade public school system. It's a very excellent organization and has led me to incredible strides in my life and ability to cross the world for business and for meeting people, etc. So thank you very much.
All right. So how about we start off with your background? How did you start off? How you ended up here in Miami Springs, and what you did after?
It's an interesting story. It's a very complex, it's a funny, complex story, but it is a funny story. My mom and my dad were living in Miami Springs in 1954, and they lived in Manola Drive. And my mom got pregnant with me in Miami Springs. And when she was about 6 months old, my dad, who worked for Pan American Airways since about 1943, my dad had worked Pan American Airways at that time. He was the airport manager locally here for Pan Am. Sent my mom to Panama, where her family is from, and to have assistance in my birth, etc. I was born in Panama, and then 6 months after my birth in Panama, I came back to Miami and grew up in Miami Springs. And so I'm a Miami Springs resident since 1956. And so I can say that I've seen not only the city of Miami Springs grow as a city, but also Miami as a whole.
All right. So you came to Miami Springs Senior High, and then you went to
Before Miami Springs Senior High. So at 9 years old, so I went to Springview Elementary, very, very good school, and it was a lot of fun going to that school. And when I was in the fourth grade, my dad came home. I was 9 years old, and he told my brother and myself, my mom seemed to have already known, of course, told us that we were leaving to Hong Kong and that we were going to find a new place to live over there and to prepare for a departure, which I had no idea what he was talking about. But the reality of the story was that day, that fine day came, and we left, and then I grew up in Hong Kong, but under the auspices of Pan American Airways. And so I became what they call expat, an expat child. An expatriate is a U.S. Individual. My dad was born in Brownsville, Texas. Is an individual working for a U.S. company or any foreign company that's transferred to a third-party location, third-party country, and then your family grows up somewhere else. So they're called expats because you're leaving your patriot location or your pat home, and you're going to another place, so you're expat. So you grow up with the benefits of expat, and there's a lot of benefits that come with being an expat. Some of the negatives, though, were having to meet new friends, having to leave your friends, having to leave your home, having to leave what you knew to be your steady, your rock or your strength or your friends and the family, and going somewhere else totally where all that does not exist, and you need to make new friends, etc. So then I came back in 1971. I was almost 16 years old at that time. Not long after that, my dad, who was working still with Pan American Airways, became sick with cancer, and he died. And so I lost him when I was 16. But it was a turbulent moment for me mentally. It was a difficult time. But I did make a promise to him that I would graduate from college, and I did. I went to Miami-Dade, and then I went to FIU, and I graduated those on time and paid for. I worked here locally at Victoria Station, which was an old restaurant here, and then 94th Aero Squadron and other restaurants that were paying me relatively good money for the work that I was performing, and so I paid my education. And both Miami-Dade College and Florida International University have also awarded me with the Alumni Hall of Fame. And so having this Miami-Dade Public School Hall of Fame gives me the 3 Hall of Fames that exist for my educational lineup. And so I'm one of a few, not a lot of people have it, all 3. But I'm very pleased that I have been selected. I'm very happy with Dr. Dotres and his administration and the way that he operates in this market and taking care of the kids in the school under his care and those of his administration so vividly and so caringly, with education as the backbone, and then caring for the way that they grow up.
So then you got into after college, after you got into the banking.
So I didn't know what I was going to get into. Quite frankly, I did not have a goal to get into banking. When I graduated from FIU in 1980, was a recession. And so the jobs were not plentiful, technically speaking. But I was able to get onto with a bank that was hiring, that interestingly enough was looking for somebody with my particular type of background, which is international. And by the way, I have my degree in finance and international business, double degree from FIU. It was a bank out of Chicago called Continental of Illinois, National Bank and Trust Company in Chicago. And I attended their training program, came back to Miami. It was a credit training program and rotational operation rotation. Came back to Miami and began working with an EDGAC bank on Brickell Avenue, and responsible for business functions and activities in Panama, Ecuador, Colombia, as the 3 major market areas to do business.
Wow. If someone were to want to get into the banking industry, how would you say that that's the best way to do it? Go to college, get a degree in, especially in foreign business affairs, and just apply for a job at a bank?
I think you end up where you end up, sometimes in a very haphazard form. You go and hopefully study what you enjoy. I enjoyed finance. I enjoyed international. I grew up from international. Consequent from Continental Illinois, I went to go work for Barclays Capital, which was a London-based corporation, and was able to do business in Miami, in Latin America, with that company, and then also I was head of credit for Latin America, and then also work in London as the 3 primary areas of doing business. Consequent, and after that, I went to work for the Japanese for 15 years when they came and approached me to work with them. And so I worked in Miami, Japan, and Florida and Latin America. So also working 15 years with another foreign entity allowed me to understand that culture very well. You know, working with the English was simple for me because I grew up in Hong Kong, a British Crown colony, and I went to King George V School in Hong Kong. So it was kind of in my network.
Yeah, you grew up in that industry. Now, we were talking before, and you said that you used to have a British accent. When you worked for Barclays, did that?
I didn't. I lost. I came back from Hong Kong with a British accent.
Yeah,
But I did not pick up a British accent again after that. I lost that during school. I mean, I can still make fun or play with an English accent.
But it's not something that's natural.
But it's not something that was natural now. No.
Wow.
No. Now is my natural voice today.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Miami is a city that continues to remake itself. Not that all cities don't. All cities remake themselves, by the way. But we are blessed to have a cultural makeup that happens often. I'll give you an example. If you might have a person from Latin America that's Colombian, or a person from Latin America from Brazil, but they're not the same, and the food is not the same. And so we get exposed to 2 different countries in Miami because they're both here. Argentinians the same, the Cubans the same. So Miami is a melting pot of a lot of culture, even though it's all Latin by nature, all Latin American or Hispanic through the Caribbean. But the food and the experience that we have allows us to grow exponentially as a result of that.
You faced adversities yourself. You mentioned, moving to Hong Kong sort of unexpectedly. How do those experiences sort of prepare you for like the changing times? You mentioned before AI, and it's a lot of rising technology. How do you think, just from what you've gained in your life experience, how do you think that's prepared you, to expect anything in your career?
I will tell you that I believe that in a person's life, you have many moments of disruption, things that happen all of a sudden that you're not prepared for or know how to react to. It could be a death in the family, it could be a sickness that you have, it could be something that just comes upon you all of a sudden, and you're not prepared to receive that experience at the time. And we can either reject it as an individual and try to not not accept the consequence thereof, or we can say that there has been a change, I've been disrupted in some form or another, and how do I overcome that to become a better person, to become a wiser person, to become a more adaptive person. And I was mentioning that, in today, while that's not occurring, let's say that that part is not available. What's happening though is disruption in business and your day-to-day activity, and it's happening more and more through the advent of AI and the moment of singularity that either has occurred or is about to occur when AI becomes smarter or more adaptive than the human psyche, and that moment of singularity will come in your lifetime for sure, perhaps in my lifetime with you. But there is a moment now, and not long into the future, where this disruption is happening. I had mentioned to you the story of Walmart disrupting Sears. And you would have, so if I would have told you 50 years ago that Sears will be disrupted, you would look at me and said it can't ever be disrupted. It is on every corner, or not every corner, but there's at least 4 or 5 or 6 locations in every city in America.
But remember, Sears was when Sears went bankrupt. It was like a lot of people were shocked because Sears had their own banking system. The Sears credit card and the Sears loans were to rival a bank. They were giving out as many loans as a lot of banks in this country, and it wasn't a bank by nature, by establishment. It turned into that over the Sears credit card because the catalog, they wanted people to buy more, and they would give you the point system. But it got to the point that they had more revenue coming in from loans than they had from the actual stores,
Yes.
and it still went bankrupt.
Yes.
It was a shock to so many different generations. Obviously, not my generations. When I started noticing things, Sears was already. I think the last Sears that I saw was the one that's on 103rd. It closed.
Yes.
It closed a couple years ago.
Yes.
That's the last Sears I ever saw.
I think there's one left, by the way, and if I'm not mistaken, it's on Douglas Road and Coral Way. If I'm not mistaken, it's still open, but that's it.
That's
I don't know what's in there. I haven't been there.
Yeah, but it's like a thing like no one would have thought. If I would have told my parents or my grandparents, hey, Sears is gonna. If I could go back in time, they would not believe me. They'd
Couldn't
be
see
like,
it.
Like they're a bank. It's not even a store anymore. It's a bank.
So after Walmart comes Amazon.
Yeah.
And that's a disruptor by nature as well.
Do you think that there is a way for Walmart to compete with Amazon because for me, looking at it from the outside view, the whole Amazon thing is you buy it and the next day it's here, Prime. You buy it today and the next day you don't have to leave the house, it's already here. So you think that Walmart, with the infrastructure that they already have, they can kind of compete or find a way to compete?
I don't know. I spoke to a friend of mine the other day. He said, it's really funny. He said, could you imagine a company one day being born in America or being born somewhere in the world, and then what they do is they send you a printer, and now you want you want something, and you press a button, and you go to your printer, and an hour, 30 minutes later, by putting some raw material in it, that you have something that you want, a plate, foodware, or something that you might need, and all of a sudden it's there within a couple of hours of a printing process. And is disruption happening? It's happening a lot. It's happening in everything. The question is, can Walmart be disrupted totally? The answer is yes. Can Amazon be disrupted? The answer is yes. Are they fast enough to be able to and have the money and resources to change the way they do business? Because there's a way. A set model is a set model, and sometimes it's very expensive to change the model. As a matter of fact, Tesla came out with their Tesla car. Today, of course, I think Ford is reporting many billions of dollars in losses in their segment, or is one of the car makers is reporting billions of dollars of losses.
General Motors.
And so as a result of that, it's costing them a lot to adapt.
Well, a lot of people don't understand, and I mean, you talk to a lot of people that trade. Talking just stock price. Let's talk about. I know a lot of people that trade in goods and services and whatever, and different companies, and they say, "Oh, I would never buy Tesla stock. It's a car manufacturing company that's trading at a tech company or an Amazon level price." And I was like, that's kind of true. Like it's trading super high when you look at Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, the other American car brands. They're trading, I think, 1/10 of the price that Tesla's trading at for a smaller share percentage. And then I was talking to this guy, and I met this very influential person. He was an intern. He had an internship at Tesla. And he goes, the people are looking at it all the wrong way. Tesla is not a car company. It's an information and data collection company. Every time you drive your Tesla on the road, it's taking pictures and scans of what's going on the road, the potholes that's there, the people that are there, the color, the wind temperature, the everything. It has so many sensors, so many cameras. It's taking care of everything, and it's going to a mass central database, right? And for the whole autonomous driving, for making autonomous driving a reality, which it is a reality nowadays. We have cars that are driving themselves. I mean, who could have ever thought of that? So it's going in, and then Tesla is going back and selling that information to other companies like GM. Like if you look at the new Cadillac, they drive themselves now. They have a Super Cruise. You press a button, they know where the potholes are. That's all information is coming from Tesla. So in Tesla, and I admire their business models, they found a way to disrupt the market and say, American car manufacturers trade super low. How do we make it? We don't make an American car manufacturing company. We make a technology company that makes cars. So they found a way to spin it into their favor.
I think people are looking for new things and new ideas as well. I think there's a moment where there's a lot of liquidity in the world, a lot of liquidity, and is Tesla an engine? It's battery driven, so it's a little bit different. Does it have other discussions that need to be discussed in the long run, like where are we getting our lithium from, and how are we going to store our batteries when they finally reach the age of their maximum capability? Where do you put them? Because it is their component parts that are adverse to the environment. But in the meantime, you're right. It is an information gathering entity. It has technology. They are exploring uses and ways to do things that are different, and they are disrupting, or they are a disruptor within the market of automobiles. Does it flow well with what generally governments are looking for, or the human population, and that is lower carbon footprint, and our engines need to somehow change the way they absorb CO2 or export CO2, then is Tesla the right technology, or is there other technologies that are coming behind them? So there's more disruption, obviously.
There's a lot of studies that show yes and no on the whole go green type of thing. There's studies saying that cars aren't the leading cause of pollution in the world. Actually, cement manufacturing.
I see.
Cement manufacturing is a very dirty process, and it's terrible for the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that, Bill Gates has opened a company to make a green cement. Everyone is trying to dip their hand in the pot of the green bubble.
That's a lot of money in there.
There is a lot of money, especially with government contracts and whatnot.
Yes.
And then there's other people that say, well, yeah, okay, you save a little bit on the carbon footprint, but the battery is so bad after 15, 20 years, however it may last, that battery is so toxic that there's nowhere to throw it away. So all the saving that you did with the no emission, you're kind of throwing it away because of how toxic the battery can be. So there is potential for disruption. There is potential, like from what looking at it from an outside perspective, there is a large potential for disruption. There's a large potential for some other company to come in and say, look at this new product that no one else has thought of, and then they're kind of caught there.
When you look at disruption, I mean, what we're saying about the disruption, generally speaking, what's advent is if we segue away from the discussion of the technology that Tesla has in the form of battery and only concentrate on driverless cars, you would say to yourself, well, wait a minute, what happens to the millions of drivers around the world? What happens to their jobs? Assuming that nothing else changes, just simply a car develops drive alone status in any form, any combustion or electronic form of driving capacity or energy exhaustion, the loss of drivers at that magnitude. What does that do? Well, it's interesting that there was a study done about the horse and buggy. When the horse and buggy industry, they said, well, wait a minute, what happens when the horses go away? Because every afternoon they would store them in barns, and then the blacksmith would put the shoes, and then somebody would feed them, and somebody would clean them. And they said, we're going to lose all these jobs because the car is coming. And what's going to happen to the economy? And the economy completely adjusted and became higher value. So I think there are disruptions occurring, even micro, within let's say the Tesla is a discussion of going from a combustion engine to a battery engine, but then in the same format, going from a car that has a driver to a driverless car is another discussion within the same discussion that we're having right now, and that's Tesla putting the autonomous.
The autonomous drive. It's also personal choice, I guess. It has a lot to do with it. A lot of people, I mean, I could say for myself, it's hard to let a machine take over. That's when we're talking about AI and that point where AI knows more than the human being. It's not a scary point, but it's a
scary point.
It is a scary point.
Yes,
it's a point that you have to worry about when something that was inanimate can know more than you.
Yes.
And do more than you.
Yes.
It kind of makes you feel lesser.
Yes.
Which puts you at a disadvantage.
Yes. It's a risk.
It's a big risk. I'm not trying to say like the whole robots are going to turn against the humans,
no.
But it puts you at a
disadvantage.
It puts you as you're not worth anything now. The skills that you have aren't worth anything because I have this robot that can work 24 hours a day.
Yes.
You can only work maximum of 12. Physically speaking,
yes.
Recommended 12 hours and 12 hours of sleep, and that's no family time, no time to eat, no time. That's just working nonstop. So it puts people at a disadvantage.
Yeah, it comes to the time when you go into a Burger King or one of the fast food chains and you order your hamburger, but there's nobody in there, just machines that will cook it, clean it, prepare it, and deliver it, and that's it.
Did you see the new grill robot that came out?
The what?
The grill robot.
Yes.
It's a robot that will cook your hamburgers,
yes, it does, right.
Fry your fries, and assemble the hamburger and put it in a piece of paper. And all the person has to do is go pick up the assembled hamburger, put it in a bag, and give it to you. That's it. And collect the money. But the robot does everything else. And that's the future.
That's the future. The key with that statement is it's happening. The cost is high at this stage. But with mass production, it becomes more.
What happened with the Xerox machine?
Xerox one.
Okay, we're talking like when you graduated, 1975. How much was a printer?
Super expensive.
How much is a printer now? $200
in your home.
At the highest quality.
I have my Xerox at home.
And I'm talking at the same quality.
Yes.
At the same quality
as
a professional printer, you can get one for $2,000 or $3,000. Not $200 or $300.
Mm-hmm.
Which so as time progresses, all these costs are going to go down, and that's when you have the AI. What did he call it again? I forgot the term.
Moment of singularity.
Moment of singularity for the AI. It puts you. It's a scary time.
It is very, very scary. What's interesting is that I would never have thought when I was young that we used to have Kodaks. I don't know if you ever.
Yeah.
So we used to have. But you know what the Kodaks are? The little Instamatics. And we would travel around the world, and we would get like a little roll, and we'd put it inside a little camera. We would take pictures of the whole world, and it wasn't very clear. It wasn't. It was a good picture, but it wasn't a good picture. You would buy an album, and you would spend hours, and you would put it together, and then you would have a collage of wherever you might have gone, or an event, or something like this, and those were keepsake memories that you'd have to keep, and it would take up space, and in the garage, or take up space in another box, and so you would store all these pictures, and that was a form of storage. And then you get this little phone. Finally, this little phone came out, and then it's been adapting itself. I have 3 little lenses here that seem to take top quality pictures, can store all the information for, I don't know, 5 years, depending how many you take, and you can even buy extra storage in the cloud. And so it seems to be an endless opportunity just for that one area called pictures. And you don't need a Xerox, you don't need a copy machine. This is everything that you might need to transfer information around. And so this becomes my copier, this becomes my picture taker, this becomes my picture holder, becomes my communicator. It becomes everything. And I say to myself, well, where do we go next from this? Do we go to now you're no more this, and then their eyeglasses, or what happens after this? This is not the end. This is another disrupted platform technology that can be, but we haven't gotten there particularly yet. But there are plans out there on how to get that done. It's just they haven't been necessarily mass produced to the public.
Elon Musk.
So it's back to AI and back to disruption.
I don't know if you read about the new Neuralink.
Neuralink.
And he wants to implant some.
China is advanced on that already.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's.
Neuralink is out there.
It's out there.
Yes.
Wow.
Japan.
And is there any? I don't know if you would know, but is there any adverse reacts with other mental function, like brain function? Like when you put some foreign object in your.
I don't know that there is a. I don't know if we know if there's a negative interaction or what that interaction is at this moment. I don't know what that is. I was talking to another friend of mine. He said, "You know what's interesting?" I said, "What is it?" He said, "Imagine a bio company finding a way to increase your brain output from 8% that we normally use to 43%." And I said, "Okay, that would be your AI right there. So your brain has a capacity." And then he turned around and said, "Yeah, but you'd probably die." I said, "Oh, okay." He said it would be too much power in your brain.
It'll overheat.
The story is, I don't know if that's true or not true. And but it is a thought of, okay, we have AI coming along. It doesn't mean that the human being cannot be adapted. Neuralink. So it's not like the human being itself is not an adaptable model. Maybe we are an adaptable model, and we can be adapted through gene therapy or through Neuralink or through internal or external influence that we become who we are, but more, be a human plus. That occurs. Yeah, 2.0, human being 2.0. So I don't know that. I don't know enough about that technically, but people are talking about all kind of things today, which is exciting. Not that it's negative or positive. There's ethics to the discussions. There are political ramifications to the discussions. There are religious discussions to the process, and so that's how we go.
What's interesting is that a lot of people are kind of adverse to this advancement in technology. It'll keep going from here, but there are also a lot of people who sort of oppose it. Like you mentioned, the camera. What I've seen in terms of people my age, a lot of people are trying to recreate kind of the older style of photos and things like that. So it's interesting that there's a lot of people trying to go back, even though it hasn't been that long, So it's just interesting to see there's digital well-being, which is sort of your relationship mentally to this advancement in technology. So it's interesting to see where it'll go from here, in terms of the youth, and especially even younger kids who are growing up more and more just kind of attached to their screens. So it's an interesting discussion to see where we'll go from here, and how we will change as people, and as well as the technology, how we'll change.
And that future is in your hands.
Yeah.
For sure.
Really
It's somewhat in mine, but mostly in yours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's like you said, we're Gen Z.
X.
Gen
Z.
X. Z.
Gen
Right?
Z.
Gen Z. We're Gen Z. We are the up and coming generation. That's how it. I don't want to get so but that's how it's kind of supposed to be. The previous generation advances as much as they can, and then gives the reins to the upcoming generation, and
Yes.
it just goes on like a train.
Yes.
Kind of. But like
Unless there's a massive disruption,
unless
environmental or
or
the discussion of pollution or mass.
but like she said, I don't want to get off topic, but like she said, there is a large movement of people. Like I don't know if you know, Polaroids are back in style. You know those
Yeah, they
pictures?
are. Yes, I've seen them there.
Yeah,
The
so
little
like,
ones.
the little ones,
The
a lot
kids.
of people have the big ones. It
Yeah.
depends, but like that's such a like what she said. People are kind of going against. Not that they're completely going against, because they don't live off of that. They just do it on a very part-time schedule. You know, they still have their cell phone, they still have their computers, but as a how do I say this?
As a trend.
As a trend, yes, as a trend, they would still prefer to use their Polaroid or their little film camera or whatever.
I think look. Everything is possible in that realm, and then you can those are called niche opportunities, what we call within the overall. But if you look at where it's really going, is it going that way? Is it a circular downward into not downward, but technologically downward into the past, or is the money really being driven by the future of technology? And I think while there are niche opportunities and plays that people can go back to the past and spend some dollars on there, probably yes. But is the mass majority of dollars coming through there? The answer is no. And I think you're always going to have this niche opportunity to go back. So if you own that company that came back with the Polaroid, or you bought the rights to Polaroid, or you did something, you'd make a lot of money because now you'd have a niche opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
Back to the banking, or like back to the topic you were originally going from, your job. What position do you do in banking?
I've held many positions in banking, all the way from CEO, president, chief lending officer, and board of directors for one bank, all the way to a lending officer, lending or giving funds to or providing lending for one individual or his family or his company. And so I've been able to enjoy capital markets activities, treasury management, wealth management, corporate lending, public finance lending, M&A, and other business opportunities over the last many years in banking. So I think international banking, I've enjoyed a lot of facets of banking, which I love. That's why I love banking so much.
Has it changed over time, or has it stayed the same?
The actual
banking?
basic discussion of human capital or human character is the same. If you're a worthy person, despite the business, if you're a worthy person who knows your model, who knows what you're doing, who has a successful platform, those are bankable. A person who is not responsible, who doesn't care, who's not going to pay you back, or has a history of not paying you back, will have a more difficult time. That's why having the traits of repaying loans, taking out the right amount of loan, understanding where you are, and working within your scheme. It could be $1 of lending versus $1 billion of lending. You're still within the scheme of a model that allows that to occur. Whether it's an equity-based structure, whether it's a debt-based structure, a debt-based structure based on bonds, or a debt-based structure based on bank loans, it doesn't really matter. You have an opportunity in banking to look at all the capital stack and be able to work within all the areas there.
So going on the loan, so you were a loan officer, and keep in mind our target audience is high school student. So how do you go and someone that starts out with, I think you start out with a 550 when you have zero credit.
Let's say it's 550. I think it's higher than that, but let's just assume 550.
550. So someone 18 years old, got no credit history, no nothing. What advice would you give them?
Number one, if you know what you're going to do, there are schools like the Center for Financial Training in Miami. In Miami, it's the old American Institute of Banking that have complete credit classes that you would take, and you would go through their credit training, and they would train you to understand credit, how to analyze credit, how to provide a loan, the right kind of loan, the right size of loan, the right structure of a loan, and how to set it up. It would take you through all the parameters and all the basics on lending. It would take you through all the aspects of operations of the bank. So everything is trainable in the form of a classroom setting. So it can be a classroom-driven opportunity where you first get your training out of or it can be on the job when you're already working and you're getting training from the job itself that you need to become a better banker, or you go to school and develop additional skills, including basic computers and basic aspects that, including writing and communication, which is important also within the scheme of how to put your idea across on paper.
Can you speak about some of your charity work you have done in the past?
I've been involved in the community for a long time. The charity work that I've done is in different organizations like Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of South Florida, Boy Scouts of America, and others that I have spent a good amount of time in fundraising. But it's basically about giving back your time, giving back your talent, giving back treasury, and then working around all that to create an opportunity for somebody else who has less than you to get ahead or have an opportunity. And so I think it's giving back. It's really just about giving back, paying it forward, as I always say. And people are wanting to listen to other people's stories so they can compare their story or build upon their story to be able to push forward with their aspirations.
Can you talk about the awards, sorry, that you have been granted and what they mean to you as a person?
I got to tell you, it's amazing. I have a lot of awards. I'm not going to be even shy to tell you that I have rooms full of awards. But the point is not the awards. The awards are, it's like money. You gather it from the work that you do, and people recognize you for what you've done, and they award you accordingly. And so I've been blessed enough to be awarded, but based on giving back. I mean, I know that if I stayed in my room, I told you about the time in the conversation where when I left to Hong Kong, I could have stayed in my room and say, I'm not going to make any friends. I'm just going to stay there, and I'm still going to live in Miami Springs where I left. And in those memories, I'm going to keep them in my mind, and I'm going to stay in my room. That's an option. Nobody could force me out of my room, that's for sure. But the reality is the experience of leaving what you know and going out into the world, you can stay in an industry. So you could be a banker and be in banking and stay in banking and contribute to the goodness of the organization and be awarded internally for that work and being, as I mentioned to you, as long as you do your best, as long as you understand the mission and as long as you perform at your highest quality. It doesn't have to be in a competitive environment that you're beating people. You're just working at your best capacity. You're always helpful. You're always reverent. You're always in a position to be the person that they can come to even after hours. Or you walk up to somebody and say, hey, I just finished my task early. What else do you want me to do? That kind of servitude attitude is an attitude that gets rewarded. It also gets recognized. But whether you move from that internal environment, whether it's your own company or whether it's somebody else's company, and you move from there, and when you have your own company, you want to award your employees so that they feel good, employee of the month or whatever, you move on to community work. And there are many community functions out there, and the goal of a community organization that's well established or well known or to be established or even to be established by you is that you're finding where a gap exists, some kind of gap in the society. I've worked a lot with the Chapman Partnership for the Homeless. The obvious gap there is homelessness. Obvious gap there is allowing people to come from the streets or off the streets where they can't afford a living environment, and you put them in a living environment. And the other one is providing food security. Maybe they might not want to leave where they are. They might kind of be where they are. They want to stay where they are, but you give them a meal or 2 meals a day. And now, or medical assistance, whether it's dental, vision, or health, and now you're providing a basic service to those people that might not, for many reasons, might not have the capacity to be able to do it themselves. And that's just one organization. The Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, as an example, does something different. It envisions what the future of a city might look like, as an example, in 2050. And whether we look at transportation, workforce development, workforce housing, or resilience, rising water, and other components of Everglades health, ecosystem activity. All that is what they do. So different organizations in the community do or perform different functions that are called gapping, whether it's mental health, women health, child health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get involved outside of your company in doing that activity. United Way is another great example of that. Or just to schools, the schools that you graduated from, specifically me, through my work with Miami-Dade Public Schools, being a teacher and being an outside individual to help better students or become people or students become better aware of themselves and activity. I'm very pleased to have this, or at Miami-Dade or at FIU. So there's a lot of ways to give back. Basically, it's giving back, extending your family outside of your family. I once asked a lady when she asked me, I really want to get involved, and she said to me, and I said, well, that's really good. Do you have a lot of extra time? She goes, well, I wake up in the morning. She told me very frankly, I wake up in the morning, get to work. After work, I have to rush home, and I cook for my mother and father, who live with me, and I take care of them. They're both elderly. And then my children who are at home, and I have to rush them to baseball game and football games and get them to where they've got to go. I said to her, I said, more engaged you couldn't be. Many people forget that there are many people engaged in taking care of their family at a very high level, and that engagement is also very pertinent to a healthy society, a healthy community, and yet people might not think that engagement is a worthy engagement. Somebody had mentioned that our engagement on politics is very low. I don't know if you know, but the average politics level when there's voting occurring is like 20% or less. 9, 10, 12, 15%, under 20%. And you say, wow, somebody's going to vote for the mayor of their city and only 20% are going to pick it? Yeah. Well, that's just a very low number. You would say that there's little engagement when it comes to that. There are some regions in the United States, like St. Paul, Minnesota, and other places, whose voting record are 80%. 80% go out into the marketplace to vote. In South Florida, that number is 20%. And you would say, wow, they're not engaging. But it's not true. They've got other things that are going on.
But if you look at Miami as a whole, but if we look at it in a smaller thing, Miami Springs has I think 75% voter turnout.
In a small city like Miami.
In a small city like Miami, I think it's 75, 80. I've been out of Miami Springs politics for a while, but I think the last mayoral campaign we had was 75, 80%, something like that, of voter turnout. And the majority of people that didn't vote were people that were elderly. And so you could say, if you look at Miami as a whole, yes, there's a small voter turnout, but if you look at smaller chunks of Miami, there's parts that do vote. It's just in a big city, it kind of gets lost in translation.
It does. I mean, look, if you look at the population of Miami Springs, maybe 25,000 people or so against or less compared to 3.6 million for Miami-Dade County. Yeah, it's an influencer, but I would think that I would much prefer to see Miami-Dade County going out at 60% or 50% versus 20%. It'd be a lot better. And I would love it if it was 85% or 90%, because that would really show the engagement of people in politics. But that's fine. The issue is that's where we are today, but somehow we need to get that to a higher level also as a discussion.
Would that be another disruption point that you would get into, or?
I don't know if I would get into it. I would just simply say, is there another way for us to engage people to vote in formats that are secure, whether it's from your TV or from other forms that might be available, that's very simple, convenient, and to the point, and still be accurate in the count. But there's other things that are popping up, I'm sure, to get that to a higher number.
That's another thing is a lot of people don't want to leave their house to vote, so they request an absentee ballot, or with the new mail-in ballots that are being sent out now. No matter how you look at it, I'm not saying that, but so maybe there is a form of looking at it another way. Obviously,
there's many forms.
Security is the main concern when it comes to voting. You don't want your voice to be changed, so there should be people looking into it. If we'll have all these technological advancements, and
look, life is what? Are we ever not going to say no to facial recognition on certain scanners. When you pass by the airport, they'll know who you are. I don't know. Maybe they will. Are we moving towards a world where people know who you are when you don't even notice that they're looking at you? I can tell you, if you go to China today, they are scanning every single human being that walks their streets, and they know where you are. Most of the people, most of the time, during the day, and at night, they catch them.
And it's not as low as I would think. If they know if they scan everyone's face, I would expect it to be lower.
There's ways to cover, but I'm saying they are scanning already, and they're going to go more and more into deeper scanning, which is because technology allows that to happen. Whether it's right or wrong, I mean, I'm not necessarily in favor of it, but it could end up in an environment that way.
It's the blood sword. I always leave every technological discussion I have is it's a double-edged sword. It can be really good. It can be really
good and really powerful. That's right. You have to be
harmful. Look at hackers nowadays. Now you have criminals that you don't even know where they are. You can never find it. You can never find them. I mean, I was reading an article about someone that had I don't know if you know what a crypto wallet is.
Sure.
But it was a digital crypto wallet. It wasn't a hard drive crypto wallet, which is the safer version of it. And he
forgot his own ID?
He got his ID and he had it. And he was a very cautious man, whatever. He said he had VPNs and various things. And the hacker was still able to hack into his virtual wallet and take, whatever he had in his account. He didn't go into detail what he had, but they stole it. It's not like before where someone would mug you on the street, And that was more of a in-person tactile confrontation. Now it's like someone in another part of the world that you're most likely never going to find is changing your life.
It's relatively easy to get your credit cards, and the dark web is real. The selling of your name might be in there already.
Yeah.
They might even somebody might have already taken out a loan in your name without you knowing.
Really?
They get because you leave a trail. No matter what, there's a footprint. When you're playing around with your computer, you're leaving a footprint, whether it's information for something or contact me another way.
How would they take out a loan if
they can replicate you? People have loans taken out.
Wouldn't it show up in my credit report?
It would show up unless you have a block on your credit report.
What do you mean?
You have a file. Mm-hmm. You contact the 3 agencies that have the record of you in their agency, and you tell them I want a 7-year block within my, and nobody can open up a credit profile on you without them calling you on the phone.
No, but when I request my credit history,
yes, that's one thing,
right? Wouldn't that loan that they pulled out on me?
You would see it, but if I took out a loan and in 24 hours I got an approval, you might not be watching me within the 24-hour period.
Yeah, but I'll find out eventually.
Yeah, but I'm gone with the money.
But I can dispute it.
You can, but still, can you dispute it within a period of time or not? You can dispute it, but I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you dispute it. The information that they used to get it is out there.
Really? Because this is going on my philosophy of life. I don't believe in debit cards.
I don't either.
I don't believe in debit cards at all. I say that is your money. That is, you put it in a Charles Schwab account making interest.
I don't have it either.
Put your money in a Charles Schwab account making interest. Get a credit card. Because a credit card to me has always been a safer method.
You have your thing, but every time you use your card or plug your card in or do something with your card, you're leaving footprints on who you are, and somebody can come back around and trace back that up and get a credit card. Now they don't care if you get hurt or not; they're just looking for their loan. Yeah. The consequence of you being a dead body or live body or happy or not, that's not their. The goal isn't that. The goal is to go into the system, and whether you get your money back and all that, they don't care if you get your money back or don't get your money back. They stopped at a certain moment. Their goal: how do I become you, and then take the money, leave as fast as I can, and then that's it. Leave no footprint in the process.
But that's why. And there's certain credit card companies that I'm not going to get into detail on, but there are certain credit card companies that are better at security and some that are worse and protecting the individual client. I'm not saying the merchant, the client. But like there's some credit cards that have a automatic disputation program where you call, it wasn't me, and to the credit card company, it wasn't you, and you didn't make that purchase, and they'll refund you your money.
Right.
American Express has that.
Right.
and Discover card.
Yes.
So I think those are the only two, if I'm not mistaken.
They all do it. I got to tell you that they all do it as long as you haven't done 50 of them in the last week,
Yeah.
because then it becomes a problem.
That's a
problem. But they all have this.
I think I know American Express. If you have more than 2 disputes in like a 3 month period, they'll send you a new card with a new credit card number. Because they always ask you when you call for a dispute, they say,
Do you have the card on you?
Do you have the card on you? Will you want to
Chase
replace
does
your
that.
card?
Oh, a lot of them do this.
And then you say yes
Yes
or
or
no.
no.
But if it's more than 2 in like
They'll
I think
send
a
you
6
new
month
ones. So will
period,
they.
no matter what you say.
Or if it's 2 disputes on the same card at the same time.
Yeah, something like that.
Yes.
If it's 2 disputes in a
At the
6
same
month,
time,
yeah.
in the same card, at the same moment, boom.
Yeah.
They'll shut your card down.
They'll shut
They'll
your
do it
card
on their own,
Yeah.
by the way.
Actually, I think you could set limits on your credit card, which you can on your debit card.
Yes.
So your credit card, if let's say it's over $500, it won't go through unless you give authorization.
Right.
And with technology nowadays, you give authorization over your phone, and in 2 seconds, it's active on your account.
Right.
It's amazing. Or if you lose your card, you freeze your card, and the moment you freeze that card, I don't know how they do it, but we're so connected.
It's technology.
It's technology. You freeze your card, you go, and it'll say decline. It says it won't work. So, it's like I said, a double-edged sword. Okay, well, I think that's a wrap. Pleasure to have you on. Thank you for everything. Basis.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was a lot of fun. Thank you very much for my interview today, and I thought it was a lot of fun, and the questions were intriguing, as I would have thought with students of your age and magnitude and experience. So congratulations to you. Thank you very much. I learned a lot, and I've been having a lot of fun in my day with you at Miami Springs Senior High.